Hi, welcome to RAR Math. Today I'm doing a series of videos on radical functions. In this video I'm looking at two square root functions, and I want to look at the input, the output, the domain, and the range. Okay, so for this first one, if I put a 20 in, this 20 is in the parentheses because it represents the input, and the input is our variable x. So when I put a 20 in the parentheses, what I'm doing is I'm replacing x with 20. 2 times 20 plus 24. 40, 50, 64, that's the square root of 64, which equals 8. Okay, for this output, f of x equaling 12 is the same as y equaling 12. I'm giving you your x value, I'm giving you your y value. This is a very common pattern in equations. Okay, so the square root of 2x plus 24 equals 12. Well, to undo a square root, the inverse of a square root is a square. So I'm going to square both sides of the equation. I get 2x plus 24 equals 144. I can then subtract 24 from both sides. 2x is equal to 120 and divide by 2 and get that x is equal to 60. Because this is an even root, to find the domain, I need to take whatever is under the radical, the 2x plus 24, and state that it needs to be greater than or equal to 0. So that 2x has to be greater than or equal to negative 24, and if I divide by 2, I get that my domain is x has to be greater than or equal to negative 12. Now this is writing it as an inequality. I could put it in, say, interval notation by saying negative 12 to infinity. For the range I look at the bookends of my problem. Because this radical is being multiplied by 1, my range goes to positive infinity. Because there is nothing being added here, the other part of my range is 0. So my range goes from 0 to infinity. I could also write it as y has to be greater than or equal to 0. I can write it in interval notation or as an inequality. Okay, for my next one, I'm going to have negative the square root of 100. Again, my input is replacing my x. Negative 5 times the square root of 100, which is negative 50. If I set this equal to negative 60, so negative 5 times the square root of x equals negative 60, my first instinct is to say, oh no, a square root can't be a negative, but because we're multiplying by a negative and our first step needs to be to divide that negative 5 over, we get square root of x equals 12, and now it is perfectly acceptable. We square both sides. On the left-hand side, the square root and square are inverses and cancel each other out. And 12 squared is 144. My domain, what's under the square root is that x. So my domain is just that x has to be greater than or equal to 0 or 0 to infinity. Again, for my bookends, this negative 5 means my range goes to negative infinity. But I still am not adding anything, so my other part is still 0. So my range is either negative infinity to 0 or y is less than or equal to 0. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my Facebook page, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.